Hey there, it's Amanda from Legend Real Estate Trust. We've had a lot of questions recently about our partnership with Equivesto, our EMD, which is our exempt market dealer. And since they're a vital part of the investment process working with Legend, we thought what better way to clarify than to do a live Q&A with Alex from Equivesto. All right, amazing. Alex, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. I know you've got a very busy schedule, so we appreciate any time that we can spend together. Before we jump into our questions this afternoon, how about you let us know a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. My name is Alexander Morsink. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Equivesto. Equivesto is a Canadian online investment platform for private investments and a licensed exempt market dealer.
Amazing. And why don't you explain a little bit more about what is an EMD? What is an exempt market dealer?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, EMD stands for Exempt Market Dealer, and the government's definition, very ironically, of an exempt market dealer is a dealer of exempt market securities. So rather a circular definition there. But essentially, an exempt market dealer is a financial institution that's regulated by the Canadian securities regulators to help investors make investments in private companies or private investments. So essentially, if you're investing in a public company, you're going and using the stock market, but private companies raise capital exempt from the requirement to go public. And so companies that help them raise capital are working in the exempt market because those companies are exempt from going public. And so they're called exempt market dealers.
Amazing. That's actually a very clear explanation. Thank you.
No problem.
Can you share with us a little bit about what is the benefits and the value to investors working with an EMD such as yourself?
Yeah, so the EMD essentially fills three main or three high level roles within the private capital markets. So the first is basically reviewing and assessing any companies that want to raise capital through a process called KYP or Know Your Product. The idea is really we need to understand all the details about the entity that's looking to raise capital. We need to verify those things so that any investor who's interested in investing can understand, okay, this information being presented by the company has been verified, it's accurate, it's correct, nothing is a scam or fraud or anything like that. And then we, as the dealer, are able to answer investor questions and we're knowledgeable about the investments available on our portal. The next piece that we do is on the investor side. So part of our responsibility as well is to do the same type of checks into the investor. So that makes up our KYC or know your customer process, as well as our suitability and our eligibility assessments. Essentially, we start out by getting to know you as an investor client. So we do an ID verification to confirm your ID. We run criminal and background checks, of course. And then we get to know through the questionnaire a bit more about you, your personal financial situation, your life, your investment goals, your risk tolerance, things like that. With that information, we can then complete our suitability and our eligibility assessments. So the suitability assessment is really focused on, okay, what are your goals, both long and short term for your investments, and do the investments that you're looking at kind of make sense for what your goals are? Are these investments suitable for you? And then there's the eligibility assessment. So the government actually has some rules and regulations around what types of private investments can raise money from what types of investors, as well as what information the company has to provide to those investors to make sure you can get a full and detailed understanding of what even is this business and what are they about. And so we do an eligibility assessment to make sure the company is preparing and has provided the right materials necessary, and you are of the right investor type to be able to invest in that company. So once we've done our KYP into the company and our KYC suitability and eligibility into the investor, we can then fulfill our third requirement, which is essentially helping protect and properly navigate the actual transaction process itself. So we have our online portal, and that's where approved companies and approved investors can actually go ahead and complete the transaction. So sign the right documents, dot the I's and cross the T's, as it were, but also move the money in a secure way. We're using our trust account to make sure we're holding your funds, the investor funds, in a secure location until the investment actually closes. We're basically making sure that everything that both people and both parties have agreed in the legal documents are completed properly and moved in the right way. So as an EMD, we sort of fill three roles in the private space. One, checking out the company. Two, making sure we understand the investor, their objectives, and that these investments make sense. And then three, making sure the whole investment process itself is done in a safe and secure manner.
Yeah, I love that. So a lot of moving parts there. You certainly add a great deal of value to our Legend investors, and I've truly enjoyed our experience working with you. It's been over a year now, actually, since we
Mm-hmm.
first engaged together when we initially launched Legend in January 2024. Alex, would you mind sharing a bit more about the KYP process? How was that going through the process with myself and with Legend when you were actually onboarding us into the Equivesto side of things?
Yeah, absolutely. So as an exempt market dealer, we take our KYP process very seriously. Essentially, it's really looking at all the information that a company wants to present to investors and really trying to do everything we can to verify and double check those materials so we can make sure we fully understand who are the people involved, what is the business doing, and do they have the right documents and everything in place so that when they go forward to investors, they're presenting themselves properly. They're, of course, being very transparent and upfront about the entire investment and the potential benefits and potential drawbacks of that to the investor and everything. So, looking at Legend specifically, you guys have been a great issuer, which is a company raising capital. We've really enjoyed working with you. We went through, of course, all of the information that you presented, and we felt it was very well prepared and well organized. The offering memorandum, which is, of course, the long form document that we recommend all investors review, was well prepared. Your legal counsel did a great job with you on putting that all together, and we
Mhm.
feel like that did properly meet the requirements of the regulators and the rules to really present the information about Legend and its investment in a fair way. So we certainly have enjoyed working with you and sort of putting that all together. And I think that comes across in the quality of work and materials that you're able to present to investors.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, and even through the onboarding process, I knew at the beginning that it is a great deal of work to be able to get to the point of being on a platform such as Equivesto. And we were happy to, go through all of that with you. Something I've really enjoyed working with you over the last year and a bit has been the ability to access you on a very regular basis. So Legend meets with Equivesto and our go-to people on your team on a weekly basis. And I found this to be incredibly helpful to always be touching base with you guys and actually leveraging any questions that I know that I can always reach out to you, that if I've got a question in my business, a question about the Ontario Securities Commission, any sort of legal question or anything like that, that I've really leaned on you over the last couple of months, and just it's been so supportive and helpful to know that you've been there for Legend all the way, and being able to always offer your expertise and some guidance there as well. So I've really appreciated working with an EMD to say that you are a very important piece of our Legend team. So we've got, our EMD, we've also got our separate legal counsel, and then of course we've got, our accounting team in terms of professionals. But something else that you've really helped us to facilitate is working with Olympia Trust, which is our custodial company, which has allowed Legend investors to self-direct any Canadian registered account into the investment. So, as I would describe to anybody watching this video, is that all of our investors come through Equivesto, and they go through the KYC process as you had just described. And in terms of actually handling funds, there's no scenario where investors are giving funds directly to Legend, that it is professionally managed, that if it's a cash investment, It'll go directly through Equivesto. And if they wish to self-direct the registered account, you guys connect them with Olympia Trust, and you've integrated the system into your process actually to make this very smooth, very customer focused, investor focused, to get them set up with their Olympia Trust account so that they are able to invest using their registered funds. Can you touch on that just a little bit about how Equivesto has integrated Olympia Trust to allow the investors to invest their registered accounts?
Absolutely. Certainly a very strong benefit to the way that Legend is structured is the mutual fund trust structure. And by structuring yourselves as a mutual fund trust, you allow investors to either invest in cash or also potentially invest with registered funds. Now, because Legend is a private investment, people can't use their registered funds at an existing sort of big five bank institution or something like that. So you can't use your RBC or your Scotiabank, TFSA or RSP to make the investment. That's where we have to work with the partner trust company, which is called Olympia Trust. So in that situation, investors actually need to create a new account, a new RSP. You can have as many RSP accounts as you like, or TFSAs. You create a new RSP at Olympia Trust, and then essentially you transfer from one RSP to another. So it's not a withdrawal, it's a transfer from your existing RSP over to Olympia, and then from there you can make the investment. Now, as I've just described, it sounds like there's a lot of steps in that process. And there's some paperwork involved. And part of what Equivesto does to try to make the process easier and more streamlined for investor clients is we integrate all of those steps into the Equivesto process. So if you were investing in cash, for example, you would create your Equivesto account, get approved as an investor, and then go ahead and start your self-directed transaction into Legend or any other investment. And then you'd be presented with the paperwork to sign. You provide your bank details, and then Equivesto would take care of the rest.
Yeah.
Those steps are essentially still the same steps, even if you're going through Olympia Trust. So we have integrated all of the different Olympia documentation that you would need to fill out into the Equivesto signing process. And then we, on your behalf, take that completed paperwork and submit that to Olympia. We would then work with Olympia and yourself, if necessary, to make sure all of those different steps are completed with as little issues or problems that need to involve you as possible. And so we would take that paperwork, submit it to Olympia. Olympia would create your new account. They would then take the transfer documentation, reach out to your existing institution, move the funds from your existing institution over to Olympia. And then we also have the paperwork already with Olympia so that once the funds arrive there during the next closing of Legend, the funds would be released automatically to Legend. Now, this process with Olympia can delay the sort of closing of your investment because sometimes it can take a few weeks or sometimes even over a month to deal with all these multiple financial institutions going back and forth. But we really try to make sure that we do this sort of all taken care of in one step with Equivesto. So you as the investor don't need to go and, on your own figure out how to open an Olympia account and then figure out how to submit a transfer and kind of back and forth. We want it to be as seamless and straightforward as possible for you.
Yeah, and that's actually been so much of the investor feedback that our Legend investors have told us is how much they appreciate the level of customer service and simplicity within a complex process that Equivesto actually provides. That you're right, that they don't have to go and open their own Olympia Trust account, and that your team has done an incredible job really outlining the process, getting all of the paperwork set up, and just really being there to hold the investor's hand and say, okay, step by step, this is exactly what you need to do in order to invest, while keeping everything compliant as well, which is something that's on everybody's mind, is to make sure that their money and their investment is handled from an extremely professional standpoint. So it kind of leads into my next question is, why do we have to work with an EMD, and who made this a requirement?
Absolutely. And that's a good question. And before addressing that, I will just mention quickly that yeah, we absolutely want to make sure that the entire Olympia transaction process is as seamless for investors as possible. So the entire Equivesto system is entirely self-directed. So you as the investor can go create an account when you like, and you are the one who initiates the transaction. But in the background, in behind, the system is automatically providing to you all the right documents that you need based on the way you wanted to invest, or whether it's Olympia, whether it's a cash investment. All those things are all being handled, as seamlessly as we can get it. Now, to address your question about why do you need to work within EMD, and how does this sort of EMD fit? Um, to answer that question fully, we need to understand sort of the framework of how sort of private investing works, and then we can see where an EMD steps in. So private companies are handled quite differently than public companies in terms of investments. When you want to make an investment into a public company or something on a stock market, you would go to your bank, you would open a trading account, and then you'd be able to go ahead and make your investments. When you go ahead and open that trading account, the bank is doing a suitability assessment in the background. You just don't realize it. So they are looking at, okay, what type of products are we giving this investor client access to? When you create your stock trading account, you probably don't automatically have derivatives trading unlocked. For example, because derivatives trading is considered higher risk. And so if you did want to do derivatives trading, you would need to reach out to the bank, potentially schedule an appointment, answer a bunch of questions so they can determine, okay, you are suitable to access this higher risk, higher, potential return type of public investing. Now, with the private investing landscape, essentially the thinking from the regulators is something relatively similar. So if you start a business yourself, you can, of course, invest in your own business, and you can have your friends and family invest into your business. And you can, if you happen to know directly some higher net worth accredited investors, you could speak to them personally about having them invest. But when you want to take that individual private business and start speaking to investors in a much broader way, the government wants to make sure that there's some steps that companies have to go through to make sure that, there's no fraud involved and the company is checked out before they're able to go and actually provide information to investors. They want to make sure that the companies are providing information that's been double checked and they're communicating in a safe manner, which obviously Legend is certainly doing.
Yeah.
So the exempt market dealer acts as that sort of intermediary role. There's no stock market for private companies. So exempt market dealers represent the access point where if a company wants to go out to a broader network of investors, the government mandates that they have to follow, Canadian securities laws, and will most likely need to go through an exempt market dealer to make that happen. So we kind of act as the gateway for companies to access the general public and broader investors, and vice versa, the investors in the general public and across Canada to be able to access a variety of different private investments. And so we need to make sure that, the companies are properly representing themselves, as of course Legend is, but also investors can come in and understand, okay, private investments are high risk. The company is describing themselves in the correct way that's compliant, and also the right disclosure and information is being provided to the investor so that anybody going forward with an investment is doing so with all the information available to them, sort of eyes wide open. They get all the information they need to make a fully informed decision about what's the right investment choice for them.
Yeah, that's a brilliant way to describe it. And you're right. So Legend has made this decision to say, hey, we want to open up our investment to as many Canadians as possible. It's actually one of our business goals. And with that comes some advertising and some marketing as well. So if you're familiar with Legend, you've probably seen us on social media. So, what some of the viewers might not realize is that anytime that we're putting out advertising, or we're emailing or communicating with potential Legend investors, that we're actually communicating with Equivesto first to ensure that we are compliant with our language and that we are representing Legend effectively, and to say, hey, like obviously we want investors to come into our investment, but we need to make sure that the language that we're using is accurate, and that we're not making promises or guarantees, and just really making sure that the investors are coming into this with eyes wide open. So it's been a great process working with your team, to say, hey, these are the small tweaks or edits to make sure that you guys are always communicating effectively, because of course we do want to always be above board as one thing, but also communicate our passion and our excitement for the investments that Legend has to offer. So that has been a huge part in working with you guys on a very regular basis, and it's been a very positive experience.
Absolutely. And certainly sort of expanding on what you were saying, whenever a business that's in the private space wants to go out to a broader range of investors, but also wants to be able to notify the general public about the types of investments that they have, or what the business is doing, or the fact that they are available for investment, all of that communication needs to be done in a specific sort of safe and compliant way. Oftentimes, and not saying that this is what Legend has done or anything, but simply as an example, you know, as a founder, you can become excited about what your business is doing, and the hope you have for the future. And
Mhm.
certainly, if you have members of your team who specialize in marketing, often marketing people their focus is purely on how do we get excitement built around this thing that we're working on. And so there can sometimes be situations where inadvertently, and again, not that Legend has done this, but for in an example where the company might potentially accidentally overstate something, or be a little bit too optimistic about the business or its investment potential, or something like that. And that's really where an exempt market dealer can sort of help provide that feedback and say, okay, I understand you feel there's really strong potential here. Let's make sure to explain that in the right way. Or we need to also mention that there are risks involved, because
Right,
you can't have higher potential return without higher potential risks. They kind of go hand in hand. So just
right.
making sure that for all Equivesto clients, we can provide that service to help support them through any communications that they would like to have to notify their existing investor base, or a broader network of investors across Canada, about their offerings or their business. We always try to make sure that we can be there to help support, to ensure that all communications are done in a very compliant but also easy to understand way.
Yeah, definitely. And, I think it just really highlights the close relationship that is required between an organization like Legend and Equivesto, that we are in touch at minimum on a weekly basis, and oftentimes, more often throughout the week, as we are looking to get our message out there and talk about our excitement for our investment, but of course, in a very reasonable and compliant way. So, I hope that this conversation clears up any questions for anybody who is, watching this video. Alex, I definitely want to thank you for obviously all the work that you've done with us, with Legend, over this period of time together. And thank you for the conversation this afternoon. Um, I think that's kind of it, is that I think the purpose of this call was to give a more clear picture about investors who are coming in through Legend, how we work with Equivesto, because anybody who decides to come in and invest, you will be working with Equivesto on your journey to invest with Legend. So with that, I just want to thank you, and wish you that you have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you. It was great being here, and hopefully this helped address any questions that yourself or other prospective investors might have. Have a wonderful afternoon, and hopefully we talk to you soon.
Thank you, Alex. Take care.